So we are back again discussing Ubisoft. I thought the worst was probably over and now it was about fighting back. Sadly, however, it's not, and I will link to the article that I'm going to discuss in this video down in the description. I needed to give myself a few days to sort of recover after I initially read the article and went through it. At this point, I'm just so fucking angry every time I get into this, and I apologize if I do get a little bit heated in this video potentially. I'll try and edit around it, but it just hurts, to be honest with you. The way that I display that is through just getting fucking angry. If you want to see my initial reactions, which were just unfiltered, I was just pretty fucking mad, and I talk about a lot of the issues. I'll link it down in the description. There's an edited version and there is an unedited version where you can listen to everything I had to say. In the unedited one, I talk about a lot of various things, including obviously Ubisoft, my own position, the community's response, what I think creators should be doing. There's a lot in there. So if you would like to check either of those out, I will link everything down in the description. Now, I have two things to quickly address before we get into the main bulk of the video. So if you want to skip over those things, which we'll be talking about Activision and why that's not my core focus, and as well why this video is not on my main channel. If you want to skip over those things, if you don't care, you want to get to the main bulk, I will leave a timestamp on screen and it will be in the description as well. So click that and head to where we start talking about the article. Now, with regards to Activision, I posted a few tweets, and we will be talking about it on the newest episode of 4 Pillars Podcast. Whenever that is recorded, we're going to be talking about the Activision stuff as well as obviously this Ubisoft stuff as well. I know George, Long and Fox as well, is going to be addressing the Activision stuff in a video where he's talking about both Ubisoft and Activision. He's going to do one big video, so don't miss out on that if you want to hear a take or keep up to date or whatever it might be. I will link all those things down below. The reason I'm not is because I need a focus. It's just the way that I work. It's the way that I feel. And the battle I've chosen is against Ubisoft. Ubisoft are my core focus right now. And partly I feel because it's not the core focus of the media at the minute. They're all talking about Activision and Blizzard. Whereas I feel like I'm just going to keep on at Ubisoft like I have been doing, because I need to fight one fight at a time. That's the way that I feel. And I have a bit more to say about that later on at the end of the video. But that's the main reason why I'm not covering it here. That's not to say it won't ever be covered. Like I said on the podcast, George is doing it, so 4 Pillars will be talking about it. I don't necessarily have a video planned just yet, but I may do down the line. So there is that. Now, the second thing, why is this not on the main channel? I know a lot of people have said, well, you've got a bigger audience on the main channel, there's way more subs, why aren't you posting these there? And that's a good point. I think that your head is in the right place when you're asking those questions. But the reason for me is because I have to draw a line between what I put on the main channel and what I don't. And just for me, this video here is not main channel material. My main channel, I'm running a business, it's my career. My main channel is the best of the best work I can put out. It's game-related content more than anything else, and it's well-edited, well-focused video. Stuff that's the highest quality I can make, and a portfolio of my best work is what I really want the channel to become, and I have to draw a line somewhere, and this video for me is not main channel material. I will, however, be posting this on my community tab, so I'm trying to get as many eyes on it as possible, but I need to draw a line between what fits on the main channel and what fits on my other platforms, and this video to me just does not fit on the main channel, and I have to draw that line. I can't just post everything, because then it will become Lasers is just a Ubisoft complain channel rather than what I want it to be, which is not that. So I have to consider my own career at the same time as trying to do the best thing. So I hope you understand. If you don't, I do understand your point of view as well. It might come across as selfish, and I apologize for that, but in my head, it's just the way that I work and the way that I want my channels to be presented, and I can't compromise that because it would just hurt me long term. That being said, however, let's get into the article at hand, written by Kotaku, came out recently about the Ubisoft Singapore studio. There is a lot to talk about, but I'm going to try and break it down, as well as talk about some of the criticism that I've received, as well as discussing what we should actually be doing, because it's all well and good breaking down an article, but where do we go from here? It can feel pretty hopeless, and I imagine it does for people involved in the situation, and I'm so fucking sorry that people have to go through this. It shouldn't be the case, and yeah, I'm gonna keep fucking fighting so that it's not, and I hope you guys join me as well by using #HoldUbisoftAccountable, as well as linking various resources, whether it be a video that I've made that you feel gets across the point, or whether it's a video someone else has made, an article, screenshots, whatever it might be. use that hashtag, hold Ubisoft accountable, to provide resources to anyone that clicks on it if it does end up trending or ends up on someone's feed. What we don't want it to be is full of Ubisoft video game screenshots like I've seen. I think that's absolutely absurd that people are jumping on it and saying, well, hold Ubisoft accountable, but also I'm going to post a bunch of Odyssey screenshots, a bunch of Valhalla screenshots. Like, no, that's not the fucking place. This is fighting back against a company that has done very, very terrible things. So the article opens with a quote that really sets the tone for the entire thing, which says, Ubisoft Singapore has always been kind of known internally to be one of the worst Ubisoft studios in terms of culture. People would visit from other studios and be like, what the fuck is wrong here? And when an article opens like that, you know there's some fucking issues. Now, Ubisoft Singapore was created in 2008 in exchange for setting up in Singapore and hiring local talent. Singapore's government would subsidize a lot of their projects, and they've been getting a lot of money from the government. The idea was that people from Canada would come over, they would run the studio, they would hire everybody local to allow people in Singapore to get into the game development industry, eventually with those people that started small taking over the reins of the company and it becoming a Singapore-owned studio. However, that's not exactly what happened. Kind of the exact opposite. There's reports that say Ubisoft have soaked up the government subsidies whilst not paying local junior developers enough to move out of their parents' homes. It's absolutely ridiculous. Some of the responses given by HR were that there are different costs of living, that that Canadians are more likely to live on their own earlier than people from Singapore who live with their families for a longer period of time, which is an absolutely ridiculous excuse to give for not equally paying. If you're doing the same job, you get equally paid. Your standard of living does not come into it. That's absolutely irrelevant. If a company is paying something for a job to be done, it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. That's absolutely abhorrent. A lot of people would eventually filter out of the studio after their pay wasn't the same level that it should have been. And the people that did stay were staying at the bottom of the company. The very top of the company were Canadians. They weren't letting anyone from Singapore reach that top spot because Ubisoft have to be in control. They've described it as feeling like a colonial outpost. So it not really even feeling like it belongs to Singapore. It's Ubisoft and they're fucking stationed there and they're using the people as resources. And it's pretty fucking disgusting, the shit that we get into as we get through the rest of this article. And based on interviews with over 20 current and former employees, there was no shortage of issues ranging from sexual harassment and racial pay disparities to bullying by managers, which is stuff that we've heard in the rest of the Ubisoft company. Racial pay disparity being something that's kind of new. Now, the article focuses on who used to be the head of the studio. They've since been forced out last year, but they were working there for a considerable amount of time as the head, and that's Hugues Ricoeur, I believe is how you say it. I'm not entirely sure. It's a French name. And there's quotes here saying the head was so rotten, the body was incapable of functioning properly, which makes a lot of sense. The studio was very aware that he was no good, and those claims were obviously, of course, pushed under the rug, and he was eventually actually given a promotion, so that's when he became the head of studio. Now, we'll get a little bit more into that later, but first off, I wanted to discuss some of the issues with the race differences, and I'm not sure whether this applies to anywhere else at Ubisoft, where they have studios stationed, but it definitely was for Singapore. It's very clear that it was difficult to succeed if you weren't French or male, and there was a very clear bias there. One of the quotes from a current Ubisoft developer says, "We have a joke, there's a French multiplier and a skin color multiplier," which is a joke, but it's also disgusting that would even come into play. And it's clear that Ubisoft protect their own, being the French, whereas everyone else is merely tools. To back that up as well, meetings would start in English, which was the default language at a company like this, where people are from all different parts of the world. But eventually they would slip into French, and the Singapore people would not have a clue what they were fucking saying. And so you would have this very clear favoritism, and this like they said, it feels like a colonial outpost. Like these people here that are just in your country, and they're not treating you with any sort of respect. It's just complete disrespect. They should be speaking in the universal language that they're using, which in this case is English, to be able to communicate with everybody, especially in a professional business meeting environment. But no, they would just slip into French and continue to have the conversations amongst themselves because favoritism. And what does that do? It makes people that work at the Singapore studio feel completely out of place. It makes them feel unwelcome, and it's just wrong. Now, when we talked about the salary gap, it was a big salary gap. Current and former employees told Kotaku that they might be paid just below the minimum salary that was listed for the job, while the French Canadian people were paid somewhere in the middle. A difference that could add up to anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 a year, and more in some instances. A quote saying that the salary gap between locals and expats was just insane. Now we get on to one of the topics that's been plaguing the entirety of Ubisoft. Multiple current and former employees said that HR wasn't helpful when it came to complaints as well. One of the big ones being sexual harassment that occurred. HR seemed to completely brush it under the rug. One former developer recalled a painful incident in 2018 in which she was walking back from an elevator to the office with a co-worker who unexpectedly started rubbing her shoulders. She told him to stop, and he continued to follow her back to her desk, trying to get her attention. She was using her phone, texting her boyfriend, but he wouldn't let up, saying, "Who are you texting? Who's more important than me?" Which makes me feel fucking sick. And on top of that, the training that they did there could not change a culture that's so ingrained in misogyny that every time someone comes out of the training, they just make fun of it, which is exactly a point that I was making before. Having this ridiculous training that people just shrug off, or changing your terms of service, it's all bullshit. When the culture of a company enables this stuff, it's impossible to learn that out. People just don't give a shit. The fact that they would have these meetings and these lessons, these teachings on what they should and shouldn't be doing, and they come out and they're just having a laugh, like, what the fuck? They would come out of this training making jokes like, "Oh no, you complimented my hair, that's sexual harassment," making out like the things they're being taught are absolutely ridiculous, and anything is sexual harassment, which is absolutely obscene. HR also blamed this woman who complained about one of her colleagues touching her inappropriately and following her and wouldn't leave her alone, blamed her, saying that it was because of her body language or miscommunication due to cultural differences. And this kind of fucking gaslighting is just disgusting. This person knows something wrong has happened, but they're being made to feel like everybody else that nothing wrong has happened, and they're overreacting. And I just can't stand it, man. I'm so fucking sorry. There was another instance where someone ran into Ricor, who was then a producer, who made a suggestive remark about having tattoos hidden where she couldn't see them. She said, which is just, what goes through your head when you talk to your fucking staff like this? What goes through your head when you talk to your colleagues like this? What goes through your head when you talk to fucking anyone like this that you're not in some sort of romantic relationship with? Like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Well, like, it's just so weird that these people think this is normal behavior. There was also, in the lead up to an office party, he was commenting on the attractive dresses that other women were wearing and asked where hers was. Which is fucking inappropriate. And also, once they were at the party, while standing around the bar, he asked her to kiss him on the cheek. And obviously, in this instance, she was like, "What the fuck am I supposed to do? What do you say to this? And how do you do it without making him angry?" Because a lot of men will get angry at that. They'll be like, "Well, you can't say no to me." Especially when they've got this sort of culture ingrained in them, and it ends up putting these women in danger. One former developer said, "I was warned when I first got there not to get on his bad side because he's very vindictive and petty. Get on the wrong side of Hughes and you'll be disappeared," said another. When you feel like you're going to get fired because you're saying the truth on a project, that's by definition a toxic environment, which is 100% true. You should be able to speak your mind. You should be able to talk openly. You should be able to discuss things as a part of a team. And when you feel you can't because upper management are going to get mad, or they're going to stop you from being able to get promotions or harm your pay, then yeah, that's a fucking issue. Ricor would continue to use his power to undermine people. He'd fix someone's collar, make condescending remarks about people's appearance, throwing pens and markers during meetings. It's absolutely ridiculous. He would suddenly swing into threatening outbursts, slamming fists on tables in meetings, or yelling at the room if someone tried to crack a joke. It's absolutely ridiculous, and we've seen this across Ubisoft studios as well. There have been reports of other people acting in the same way, and it's just the most toxic environment. How can you act like this? And it's a great thing to see that he's no longer there. But my God, this was allowed for a long time and covered up for a long time. People, because they were treated this way, started to feel they couldn't leave Ubisoft. They were trapped at Ubisoft because they wouldn't be good enough anywhere else. They weren't good enough at their job. They were told repeatedly they weren't. They were made to feel small. They were made to feel worthless. And that made them feel like they couldn't leave Ubisoft. They were stuck at Ubisoft. It's got the exact same traits of a toxic, manipulative relationship that's abusive. And it's the same thing here with this company. We're seeing them being treated in a way and made to feel a particular way that just isn't true, to keep them around, manipulate them, use them, and it's disgusting. Someone who has since left said that the developers there are treated like resources and not people, and it's fucking clear to see from everything listed in this article. Another former developer said, they love to say when you first join the studio that you either sink or swim, and that's ridiculous. It's got nothing to do with sink or swim. It's got nothing to do with your ability to do your job. It's more about your ability to deal with these people, and that is 100% true. I don't really know what to say. It's a huge shame to see. It really is, because that is very true. It's not got anything to do with these people's ability, although they're made to feel like it is. It's completely to do with your ability to deal with these people. Whether you succeed or not at Ubisoft is 100% all to do with how well can you put up with people, how well can you fake a smile, how well can you pretend that you're completely fine in your job. And that's just not the way that it should be, and that's what we want to see changed. Now, the article ends saying that no one would expect a 30-year-old company with more than 10,000 employees to transform its workplace culture overnight. But a year after Ubisoft was the center of widespread allegations of employee misconduct, harassment, and bullying, there are plenty within the company who feel it hasn't acted quickly or decisively enough, which is exactly why we continue to talk about this, why I continue to make videos, bring it up, tweet about it. For everyone that says, why are you continuing to go on? This will be dealt with internally. It won't be dealt with internally, and it has not been. They have no intention of dealing with this internally, and you cannot fight this in a positive manner. You have to fight this with full force. You have to give pressure to them and hurt them where it hurts most, which is their bottom line, how they get money. And that's the only thing that we can do, really, that's actually going to make active change. Now, people have asked me, what do you actually want to see change? What would you actually like to see them do? And that's a very good question. Now, I don't think it's necessarily up to me to decide these things. I think it should be dealt with internally in terms of what they actually do. It's more that I'm pushing that there needs to be change, and that needs to be very clear. However, I do have some ideas. Now, I apologize that I keep looking over here. I'm actually reading a bunch of notes that I've written. I don't want to mess up and get anything wrong, but I do have something that I actually replied to someone in a DM somewhere. I don't know whether they were just trying to get at me to be like, I see you complaining lots, but what do you actually want to do? But I thought I'd reply to them anyway and let them know what I feel would be a positive change at Ubisoft. And I'd like to let you guys know exactly how I feel about that as well, and what I feel could potentially help, and what bullet points I think there are to enforce actual change. So the focus of the movement is to draw attention, wide scale, to their misconduct, to keep pressure up so that they have to make change. That's the reason we're doing Hold Ubisoft Accountable. Now, the issues that we've seen is that they refuse to change. People who've done bad things are just moved around the company. Ultimately, the goal we want is for a safe environment across all of their studios. I won't stand for any sexual misconduct or for anyone engaging in that to remain at the company. I can't allow for racial disparity to continue, for people in positions of power to go unchecked and allowed to put down and bully others. We also need HR to be held accountable to a high set of standards and put under a lot of scrutiny, and that needs to be separate from the management staff so they can't interfere and try to change the rules. We cannot have upper management dictating HR. And of course, I can't support Eve while he's still there. Sure, he might not ever leave, which is probably going to be the case, but I personally will never again support them even if they fix every other issue. That man allowed everything to happen on his watch, and he's not deserving of my support. It doesn't matter if they fix every other issue at the company. While Yves Guillemot is there, I will not support them. I will not. It's just not going to happen. As for the innocent people that do work at Ubisoft, we're fighting so that they feel safe. And based on the reports, they appreciate that. They don't want to come into work feeling intense anxiety. They don't want to be bullied and made to feel small. They don't want to be sexually harassed and abused. And this is the best that we can do. And like I talked about in my rant video, the whole concept of, well, I actually want to support the devs is not really backed up by anything. Developers are paid whether the game sells or doesn't sell. It's Ubisoft's decision what they do when games don't sell. Obviously, there's always the option that they change absolutely nothing in the company and they just lay off an entire studio, which, I mean, is unlikely, but if they do it, it's very, very telling of the company, and that's going to put more and more pressure on them, which is only going to help our cause and eventually force change. This isn't something that can be done short term, it's something that happens over a long period of time, and we have to keep on at them for a very long period of time, and there might be casualties in that period of time. There might be, and we can't promise that there won't be, but it's better than this going on forever, because that's the alternative, is we keep talking about this but giving them all of our money, and it continues to happen because they can get away with it, because it doesn't matter what negative press they get, because no one's actually taking any fucking action against them. They're still buying Assassin's Creed, they're still buying Tom Clancy, they're still buying Watch Dogs. If you continue to do that and you continue to promote them and you continue to give them money, doesn't matter what you say outside of the fact, you're still supporting the company and giving them exactly what they want. You can say whatever you want about Ubisoft, you can say how terrible they are on a large platform, but if you're still giving them money and everyone else is, they won't change. They don't actually care. It's not that they don't realize this has happened. They do. They just don't care about it. And the only way we can fight them is to hit them where it hurts, so they are forced to change and adapt and alter their company. Now, something I did want to address was the concept of, if we are fighting Ubisoft for specific reasons, if we're boycotting Ubisoft because of what they've done, why aren't we boycotting anyone else? Why are we just boycotting Ubisoft? Isn't that a bit hypocritical to boycott Ubisoft for what they're doing, but not boycott Amazon or boycott Apple for the bad things that they do? And what it really comes down to is this. You have to understand that this is the fight I'm choosing to fight right now. I can't openly fight everyone at once. You'd spread yourself too thin and nothing would get done. Ubisoft is my current target, my current battle. Once that's over, then we can take a look at how else the industry might need changing. But to do it all at once would just be silly. It's like suggesting that someone who's fighting for racial rights should also be equally fighting for trans and women's rights in particular areas. Just because they aren't fighting for those things right now doesn't mean they don't realize how serious those issues are. They're just picking their battles. I won't buy from companies where I feel that their want to make money supersedes the care for their employees, for the most part. It really depends if it's an inbuilt culture at places like Ubisoft or Activision, or whether it's more isolated cases that don't stretch to mean the entire company is at fault. Overall, I do believe that we as consumers need to know how our games are being made, how our employees are being treated. Similar to the food industry or the clothing industry, we need to know these things. No more of this zero accountability nonsense. If I find out a company has a long history of behaving a certain way and it's a culture issue and they've made no attempt to fix it, then you can bet I won't be buying from them anymore. Ubisoft and Activision are on that list for me. More information means we can better be informed about how to spend our money. When it comes to big companies like Amazon, Apple, etc., I agree that there are certainly issues to be addressed. I could easily stop buying from every company on the planet, but it would be performative at best. The only way that works is when the masses do it, and I feel with Ubisoft, it's a battle we can win if we keep trying. If I just stop buying from Amazon, then nothing really changes. Life becomes harder for me in some ways, and I'm not actually making any real change. Were there a movement started where loads and loads of people decided to boycott Amazon, then I probably would. But like I said, to do so now would be performative at best, and I can't take my foot off of Ubisoft to focus on millions of other companies because it would be idealistic. The short version is, you have to pick your battles, and just because you pick those battles doesn't mean you fail to recognize the issues that exist elsewhere. We're trying to do our best with what we can do without making our lives incredibly difficult in the process. And I think that's about all I have to say on this new article. I've covered it, I've talked about what I think should happen, I've talked about some of the criticisms I've received, and that's sort of where I'm at. I'm open to having discussions though, so do leave your comments down below if you have any questions. Please try not to be aggressive. It is incredibly stressful for me when I can't properly have a conversation and engage with you and you're attacking my character in the comments because of something maybe I failed to clarify. If you do have questions and you are confused about something or you feel a particular way, please do leave a comment though, because I have been engaging with people and we've been having some good discussions, and it's nice to have that. It's a very nice feeling to have those sorts of discussions, as opposed to people coming at you and saying, well, you can't do anything, Ubisoft still sell big game. Like, I just can't be dealing with these sorts of people. I don't want to have a conversation with you if that's what you're going to do. But if you do have any questions and you would like to talk and you would like to be respectful and we can actually have a normal conversation, then please do leave a comment, because I really appreciate that. Like I said, all resources will be linked down below, whether it's the article, whether it's where we're going to be posting future content related to this, where we're going to be discussing and breaking things down, whether it's videos that have come out in the past that I think are relevant, or anything like that as well. A lot of my thoughts as well on this I do put on Twitter, where we're obviously using the hashtag Hold Ubisoft Accountable. It's what I've been doing. So if you want to support that, you can do by using the hashtag, posting the resources, retweeting anyone else who's doing it as well, so that we can maybe get it trending again, and again push Ubisoft to make some actual real change. That being said, I think that's it for this video. I'll see you all soon. Hopefully with something a bit more upbeat, a bit more fun. But this stuff does have to be done. We do have to keep on at them, and we gotta do our best. Thank you guys so much for continuing your support. I fucking appreciate the shit out of you guys. And again, I am so sorry to anyone that has gone through something similar, is going through something similar, or works at Ubisoft and feels the way that a lot of people there do. You're not alone. We're trying our best. We've got your back. Reach out if you want to me, whether that's Twitter, whether that's my emails, or whether that's Instagram DMs. If you want to, I'm always here to talk, discuss. If you have anything that you feel would be helpful, or that I could help with, you're more than welcome to get in contact with me, because anything I can do or anything we can do as a community to fight Ubisoft is worth doing in my book, and I will not stop until we get some actual change. Thank you guys so much for watching the entirety of this thing, and I will see you all soon for something else. Catch you later, everybody. Bye-bye.